Hi guys, so I recently wanted to fit a dash cam to my 2013 R56 Mini Cooper S. I wanted something that was quite subtle and that wasn't going to spoil the inside of the car, something that looked quite unnoticeable from the outside of the car, but something that also had good performance. So I ended up buying this, which is the VO4A119. Now, I'm not here to talk about the camera itself because there's enough resource online to tell you about that, but I wanted to, I'd originally set out to do a how-to guide on how to fit a camera into one of these cars, but the process of actually doing it and, you know, having my phone in my hand and tools and stuff, it just didn't happen. But what I thought I would do is just tell you a little bit about how I did it and some of the problems I faced, and hopefully help someone else going forward. So like I say, for me, I bought that camera, A119. I also bought a next base dashcam hardwire kit, and finally, obviously the packet's now empty, but I bought a COM4 left and right angle mini USB adapter. So a little bit of background. Now my car, I think all of them have actually a DAB radio. Now I read some stories on the internet about dash cams basically interfering with DAB and making it unusable. I also read stories about it interfering with FM, you know, regular radio as well. So I was a little bit concerned about that, and I thought to myself, you know, there's any amount of hardwire kits online available, going from cheap Chinese items to more expensive branded goods. I chose to buy the Nextbase because it had good reviews and it was a quick plug and play affair without any soldering, you know, or anything like that. I was quite keen not to harm the wiring of the car or invalidate my warranty in any way. So I bought the camera and I bought the Nextbase kit, and what I did, well, actually, first, when I got the camera, I plugged it in the cigarette lighter, and I ran the radio, and I checked everything was as it should be, which it was. So I then moved on to the hardwiring approach, and I did a very basic test setup where I literally hung the camera off the rearview mirror so it was roughly where it needed to be. I ran the cable loosely behind the sun visor, and then I kind of like just let it hang down the air post and down to the fuse box, which is down there. And I ran the camera, let the camera boot up. I tested the radio, and at that point I was happy that the radio in this case had been unaffected. Now the Nextbase kit does come with a suppressor. It's like just an item that you clip round the wire like the power cable, and that claims to eliminate suppression. Luckily I didn't need to use that. It is quite a chunky affair, and if I had needed to use that I may have had trouble with space, but for me I didn't need it. But what I have read on the internet, to be honest, it can be a bit of a hit and miss, you know, a bit of potluck as to whether it'll affect you in particular. I don't know much about these cars. Mine's quite a late one, you know, possibly earlier models had different arrangements for the DAB aerial. I believe the issue with the camera is the power cable's proximity to the DAB aerial, but that's you know, that's just my opinion. I'm not 100% on that. I'm certainly not an auto electrician. Okay, so what I did, so once I was happy that the test setup worked, I set about fitting the hardwire kit properly. So the first step was to work out which fuse to use. Now I personally want to have the camera only work when the engine's running. Some people like parking modes. I'm not so concerned with that. I personally think parking mode's only really worth having if you've got a rear facing camera as well. Now one thing I will say with the Nextbase kit over and above the cheaper ones it's got internal circuitry which monitors the voltage of the car battery, and if it becomes too low, if it goes below a certain voltage, it actually powers down. So if you do want to run the camera permanently with effectively a parking mode, that kit there is better than you know, some cheaper alternatives that won't do that. So, but as I say, for me, I just want nice and simple, start the engine, camera records. You know, I'm really looking for a fit and forget solution. So I had to locate a fuse. So I did a little bit of research on the internet, and I've gone for F34, which you can see there, and it is I think that's heated seats, which I do not have, but electric mirrors, which I do have. So that circuit, I can confirm, is live with the engine running and not live when the engine is not running. So that's cool. It is the smaller type of fuse. So what I did was this kit, this Nextbase kit, comes with, you can actually see it on the image there. It's a thing known as add a fuse, and it's simply something that replaces your existing fuse, and then it brings in another circuit. So there's two sizes in this kit. There's the larger, more traditional fuse size, and then there's the smaller one. So the fuse 34, which I wanted to use, is the smaller of the two, so that's the kit I used. And I'll just give you a quick idea of how it works. So hopefully you can see this. There is the add a fuse kit, and at the moment I've still got to tie up the wires, but there is enough room there for the excess cable. So that comes with a permanent live, which connects via a bullet connector, which is somewhere in there. I'm not going to take it out, but it's on the end of the add a fuse. And then the ground, which is a black wire with a little C-shaped connector on it. I've run, it's approximately there behind that trim. There's 3 clips. The trim just eases forward, and there's a screw in there, or a bolt rather, which I loosely unbolted. I'll slip the ground connector behind it and tighten it back up. Now, a word on this trim itself, comes off fairly easily. I would pull the rubber, just ease this rubber off first, this rubber door strip, and then once your fuse box cover is off, as you can see mine is still off, you can get your hand on here and just be nice and gentle, just apply a bit of pressure and it'll come away. Now for me, the clips remained in the car body, but they were easily recovered and refitted into the trim before I refitted the trim. The trim goes back on just by pushing firmly, and you'll hear the clips clip into place. So that was fairly trouble-free. The key with that is to take your time, don't rush it. Certainly don't use any tools to pry it, otherwise you'll mark the plastic. So that's the power taken care of. Now, the third wire that comes out of the Nextbase kit is the USB cable. So for me, that came, it went up inside here, and it comes out roughly here, and then it goes up the air pillar, as you can see, to about here. And I'll just get back in the car. Now, this bit was quite tight. Sorry about the sun there, try and move the camera. This area here was quite tight. Now some people, when they're doing this, take the air pillar trim off. Now previous vehicles I've worked on has taught me that this can be quite a problem and lead to snapped clips and so on. This is the first car I've had with an airbag in the air pillar, as you can see there, and I don't know much about airbags other than they hurt if they go off in your face, so I chose to leave that trim well alone. But I did find that once the rubber was removed from the door strip, I could just, once again, nice and gentle, I just took my time and I just took the cable behind there. The next thing was this material. It's really great for this purpose, to be honest. I'm not sure what it's made out of. I'm sure it's like a cardboard sort of material with like a fleck on it. But it's It's not like the headlinings of years ago, which was just cloth. This is more, it's thick and it's quite firm, so it's certainly up to the job of holding a cable. So my cable runs along here, and it goes behind the mirror, but critically it goes, now my car's got the rain sensor. Now this rain sensor, if you grab the trim, so if you grab this bit and you grab it with 2 fingers and you pull it gently, very gently forward, it'll unclip and swing forward, and that just gives you a little bit more room here to work with. So my cable goes along there, and then finally you can see it comes out. Once again, I do apologise to the sun, but it's just one of those things. So the cable comes out of there, as you can see, and I chose to use a right angle connector, which allowed me to get the camera a lot closer to the mirror assembly, because as I said before, I'm trying to make it look as sort of factory fit and subtle as I can. So that's in there, and there's the camera. So other noteworthy points, I guess, I've got a class 10 32 gig micro SD card from a reputable brand. Don't buy a cheap Chinese copy one, because you'll have problems with the camera. The sticky pad, now you'll notice I've stuck that to the dot matrix pattern of the window. Now I ended up doing this twice. The first one, I just literally lined it up and pushed it forward, and there was a lot of air bubbles on the outside of the car. Now I read that what you should do is you should start at one edge of the pad as you're applying it to the glass, and move sideways to let the air escape as you fit it. So I removed the pad in the first one, and that initially seemed like a challenge in itself, but next I'm not quite sure how you say that, VO4, the camera manufacturer, with the kit they provide you with string, and the string makes the job so much simpler. I just put the string round the existing pad, it came away quite easily, it didn't leave much residue on the glass, but I cleaned that with surgical spirit followed by glass cleaner, and got that clean using paper towels is the best thing for that. Likewise, cleaned the back of the trim that I was going to use, the mountain plate. I've got the non-GPS one, so I cleaned that, they give you a spare 3M pads, luckily, so I put it all on. So then I worked out where I wanted the camera to be. Point of note again, I never really want to remove this, to be honest, but it's worth noting that the camera must move up slightly to be able to be withdrawn from the bracket, so don't mount it too high, otherwise you won't be able to remove it. Likewise, you've got to give yourself enough clearance if you do want to remove the camera to be able to insert or retract the mini USB cable. So be careful of that. But and another word of note as well, actually. So the Mini's got quite a steep rake on the windscreen. What that meant was that to have the angle of the lens on the camera, because the lens is movable, to have it where I want it to be meant that I had to use the thicker of the 2 provided mounting plates. So that's worth noting. You can hear when you're offering it up to the glass, when you first, when you haven't yet removed the backing for the sticky pad, and you're trying it out, you can hear the sound it makes when the lens is striking the glass. It makes a different sound to when only the 3M pad is striking the glass, and that exercise taught me that I needed the thicker one. I think if you didn't use a thick one and you tried it, it probably wouldn't stick to the glass properly. So that's another noteworthy point there. So I think that's everything. I think I'm quite happy with the way it looks, to be honest. It's from the driver's side, you can't really see it, which is perfect for MOT purposes. For anybody outside the UK, I know different countries have different laws, but in the UK, having anything in the driver's view will fail an MOT. So I'm quite happy with that. I have viewed some of the files in day and night, and they're pretty good, but again, there's enough reviews on that. A point worthy of note is I discovered this camera through Techmoan, the website Techmoan. You know, prior to coming across that site, I was looking at Blackview and similar cameras that were much more expensive. The Blackview one, I was looking at the entry-level one. I forget the model number, but it, you know, even to set it up, it didn't have a screen and it didn't have Wi-Fi, so you would have had to continually like run a little bit of video, then remove the card, put the card in a laptop, we'll look at it, make micro adjustments, and I just felt that it was going to be quite troublesome. Well, this camera has a screen, it's much cheaper. Now, I'm not going to say that it's as good as the Blackview, I'm sure it isn't, but for me and my requirements, you know, the reviews put onto the Techmoan site by the chap who runs it were very informative, so that led me to choose this camera. You know, a lot of cameras I found were just too big and bulky. You know, they maybe had excellent performance, but they were just too big and bulky and would spoil the interior of the car. So I think that's it, other than I'll just quickly show you what it looks like from the outside. So as you can see, there is a little bit of an air bubble, but for me that was good as it's going to get. I spent a lot of time trying to make that better, with pushing it from the back, etc., but literally that is as good as it's going to get. So I hope that's been of some use. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll try and help you out as best I can. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.